Ever wondered how a single drop of water could instantly tear $1 million empire apart? Or how a man you just humiliated and kicked into the gutter could actually end up owning everything you have? Welcome to Fireside Files, where the truth is always stranger than fiction. Driven by an insatiable hunger for power and an unchecked, ruthless arrogance, Vikram Roy sat at the most exclusive corner table of the grandest five-star restaurant in the city, barking furious orders into his phone while his corporate associates cowered in silence. To Vikram, the world was divided strictly into two kinds of people: those who commanded absolute wealth and those who existed merely to serve them. As he slammed his phone onto the table, visibly fuming over a delayed multi-million-dollar merger, a young, exhausted waiter named Kabir quietly approached the table. Kabir had been working double shifts for weeks, his eyes heavy with sleep deprivation and his hands trembling from sheer exhaustion, because every single penny he earned was going straight to the hospital to pay for his critically ill mother's life-saving surgery. Holding a heavy glass pitcher with utmost care, Kabir leaned in politely to refresh Vikram's water, but as Vikram made a sudden aggressive gesture with his arm while shouting at his lawyer, his elbow slammed hard into Kabir's arm. The icy water splashed instantly across the front of Vikram's bespoke Italian silk suit, soaking his shirt and ruining his polished appearance. The restaurant fell into a dead, suffocating silence. Vikram erupted into a terrifying rage, leaping to his feet and shoving Kabir backward so violently that the pitcher shattered on the marble floor. He screamed insults at the top of his lungs, calling Kabir an incompetent, worthless loser who wasn't fit to sweep the floors of his office, demanding that the restaurant manager fire the boy on the spot and ensure he was blacklisted across the entire city. Kabir fell to his knees amidst the broken glass, his hands bleeding as he frantically tried to wipe the suit with a napkin, tears streaming down his face as he openly begged for mercy, pleading that this job was the only thing standing between his dying mother and her urgent medical treatment. But Vikram's heart was like ice. He callously kicked the napkin away, sneering that people of Kabir's low status were born to fail, and watched with cold satisfaction as the terrified manager formally stripped Kabir of his uniform and threw him out into the stormy afternoon. But what Vikram didn't realize was that the broken waiter he just threw into the rain was holding a secret so massive, it was about to destroy his entire life. Stay tuned to Fireside Files as this mind-blowing story unfolds. Devastated and completely broken, Kabir gathered his few personal belongings in a small plastic bag and walked out into the cold, gray drizzle, his dreams crushed and his mother's life hanging by a thread. Back inside the private dining area, Vikram sat back down, still muttering insults as he used a cloth to dry his jacket. It was then that his senior corporate attorney noticed a worn, faded leather wallet that Kabir had accidentally dropped under the table during the commotion. Indifferent and mildly curious, the lawyer picked it up to throw it in the trash, but as he opened it, a folded, yellowed document and an old, dust-covered photograph slipped out onto the table. The lawyer glanced at the photo and froze, his face turning pale as he slowly pushed it across the table toward Vikram. Reluctantly, Vikram looked down, expecting to see worthless trash. But the moment his eyes locked onto the photograph, his breath hitched in his throat. The picture showed a glowing young couple holding an infant, and hanging around the father's neck was a distinct, custom-designed gold dragon pendant, the exact same unique family heirloom that Vikram himself wore under his shirt every single day. Shocked and trembling, Vikram unfolded the official court document attached to the photo. It was an authenticated birth certificate and a sealed DNA report confirming that the young boy was Kabir Roy, the only biological child of Vikram's elder brother Rohan. Rohan had tragically perished in a fiery car crash 20 years prior after being disowned by their tyrannical father for marrying a humble woman against the family's wishes. For 2 decades, Vikram had spent fortune after fortune searching for any trace of Rohan's missing wife and child, believing they were lost forever. The realization hit Vikram like a physical blow. The helpless, impoverished waiter he had just humiliated, kicked, and thrown into the street was not a stranger. He was his own flesh and blood, his late brother's only son, and the rightful legal heir to half of the Roy family's vast corporate empire. Can you imagine the horror of realizing you just destroyed the person you spent 20 years searching for? An overwhelming wave of crushing remorse, guilt, and terror washed over Vikram. The terrifying monster he had become was laid bare in front of him. He had just degraded his own nephew and condemned his brother's widow to death out of pure, ugly arrogance. Dropping his expensive coat, Ignoring his associates and abandoning the multi-million-dollar deal, Vikram bolted out of the restaurant doors into the pouring downpour like a madman. He sprinted through the flooded streets, his expensive leather shoes sloshing through puddles, screaming Kabir's name into the roaring thunder. Blocks away, sitting alone on a rusted metal bench at a deserted bus stop, Kabir sat with his head in his hands, weeping quietly as the rain soaked through his thin shirt. Hearing heavy, desperate footsteps, Kabir looked up in fear, expecting Vikram to attack him again, but what he saw stunned him to his core. The formidable, feared billionaire industrialist was running toward him in the torrential rain, soaking wet, gasping for air, with tears streaming down his face. Before Kabir could even stand up, Vikram threw himself onto his knees in the muddy street right at Kabir's feet, wrapping his arms around his nephew's legs and sobbing uncontrollably. Vikram held up the faded photograph and the gold pendant, his voice cracking as he begged Kabir for forgiveness, confessing that he was his father's brother, his uncle. Kabir stared in total disbelief as Vikram vowed on his life that his mother would be moved immediately to the best medical facility in the country under the care of top surgeons, and that Kabir would never have to suffer or bow down to anyone ever again. Sitting under the shelter of the rain-soaked bus stop, the billionaire and the waiter held each other in a fierce, emotional embrace, closing a painful chapter of separation and opening a new legacy built not on arrogance and wealth, but on redemption, family, and truth. Thank you for watching Fireside Files. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more extraordinary stories.